You said, is biological sex a spectrum?
Yes.
I would say yes, because there are multiple parameters that we look at when we define sex. And we know that there is variation within them. Even within our categories, we see variation.
Okay.
I think for me, it's about the potentiality. It's like, you know, whether you are the sex that could do this or could do that doesn't mean that you're not. It's like when a man chops off his penis, it's still a man with a chopped off penis. That's why I'm boiling it down.
But actually, I mean, now that I'm thinking about this is like a semantic point now, but actually, if that penis is gone, the potential to have a child, like to have a baby, goes with it, right?
Hello, welcome. Where are we?
We are in London.
And what is your name?
It's Jess de Wahls.
And you taught me today about textiles.
I have, yes.
That's good, because I wasn't really sure about textiles. And what is your name?
My name's Güneş Taylor.
That's a very nice name. And you're a biologist and science communicator.
I am indeed.
Wow, and today we're going to play some Spectrum Street Epistemology. So this is very, very exciting to me. Okay, first claim. Being an adult human female is all that it means to be a woman. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Strongly agree and slightly disagree. Well, I'm a little surprised by this. Why do you strongly agree with that? Tell her.
Tell her. Because it is all, at the base of it is what it means to be a woman. Obviously, a woman can be anything beyond that, but if we boil it down to that, that's what it means to me.
So I think we should probably define terms. What do you mean by female?
It's the sex that has the large immobile gametes.
Okay.
To me, it's a purely biological descriptor.
Okay. Well, we happen to have an actual you're an actual biologist.
I am. I literally have a doctorate. Yeah.
You have a doctorate in biology.
I do.
That's incredibly impressive.
I do.
So they don't make stuff up in biology, do they?
Sure.
They do? They do?
No, well, at the very leading edge of research is the part where we have to imagine things and then prove them, right? So facts are things that we have evidence for, but there is a certain amount of making things up. This is getting hardcore into academia and the research process.
I'm thinking about but now. So is there like a biological definition?
Yes.
There is. Okay, so what is it?
Of course. I mean, so the biological definition of a female is the sex that makes gametes, as Jess said, that are eggs, that are large, substantially large, do not propel themselves through their reproductive systems on their own. Beyond that, we also have lots of technical definitions for what a female form and body looks like from a biological sense. So if you think about it, it's not just about having an egg in there, right? The egg is found in a gonad, which is an ovary, and the ovary has to have the supporting structures around it and all these kinds of things.
So you really know what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really know what a biological female is.
Okay. Hamas does too. Okay. So
have I ever been likened to Hamas before? Look at this. I'm taking that as a compliment, Peter. I'm choosing to.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so my question to you is, being an adult human female is all that it means to be a woman, and you're standing on this slightly disagree.
Yeah.
So explain that to us.
Okay, so I'm standing here because the things that we have been describing, I would define that as being female. And your question pertains to the word woman. Okay. And woman to me involves more of the experiential and performative aspects of existing in a female body for me. So when I think about, and if I was to try and describe what it is to be a woman, not just to be female, I would talk about very different things. So if you ask me to describe being female, I would talk about my reproductive system in a very uncourteous manner and bodies and things like that. But if you ask me what it feels like to be a woman, I would talk about the sensation of waking up in a morning and thinking, what fresh hell is this? How is my body behaving today? Why am I crying over this random thing? Oh, why do I feel like this very experiential aspect? That's what I would talk about. So. Okay.
Does
that make sense? You look a bit confused.
No, I'm just I'm processing that. I'll tell you what I'm processing later. So there's a biologist over there. What did you think of that explanation of woman and female?
Well, I guess having been in what they call the gender wars now for a while, I think for me, I boil it down literally to the explanation of adult human female, because that feeling is incredibly personal, right? So there's so many variations of woman. And we do have certain things in common, but there's also so much that we don't have in common, but we do have that thing in common. So I think because I had to reduce in the conversations that I've had over the past few years what I mean by what a woman is, when people pushed me on it, that's what I boil it down to. Just to be like really clear, I understand what Güneş is saying. It's just, I think that's a personal experience of what it means for Güneş to be a woman. And for me, like when you ask me that question, I just because I've been like probed so many times. But what if I feel? You can feel however you like, but you know, like and obviously those feelings are different for every woman too. You know, some people wake up and go. You know, there's women who absolutely love and enjoy having their period, and there's there are women, who lean in and go back to So I think, you know, experiences are as varied as we are human beings. It's so for me, I had to draw it back down to that's what I understand. That's from where I'm going, and the world is your oyster. You can be whoever you want to be, but that is the definition for me of what it means to be a woman. And that word has been like, I've seen so many ways where people want to then say it's just a social descriptor and a performance of being a woman.
Performance, yeah.
And I'm sure, you know, that's all interwoven too. But I feel like the thing that we all have in common, however we perform woman, because there's so many different ways of performing women, you know, like I've got some gold star lesbian friends who really perform woman really badly when we talk about how that social performance is perceived by different people.
I want to talk about that, and then I'm going to go to another claim, because that struck me. And, you know, Judith Butler talks about women as performing. Like, what does it mean to perform as a woman? Like, what does that mean?
I mean, you can't ask me to explain Judith Butler's
No, just
performing a woman. That's unfair.
Like,
but
for you, what does it mean to perform?
So performance. Well, when I use the word performance in that context, what I meant was the things that we do because we understand the culture within which we are found, and we understand how to communicate effectively non-verbally within that community. That's the performance. It's a non-verbal communication.
Like a dress, clothing,
it's behaviors.
textiles.
It's behaviors, right?
Right.
And there's a huge range of sort of things that you can do on stage to indicate something. I don't know why this is springing to my mind, but in ballet, for example, there are certain gestures that are codified that indicate a certain emotion, and they're packaged up. And in the performance, you deploy these things to sort of say, you know, I'm heartbroken, or I'm scared, or whatever these kinds of emotions are. And there are things like that in society that women are meant to do to indicate womanliness, right? And so when I say performative, it means you get to choose in any given moment as a person in a female body, which one of this plethora of woman performances you could choose to enact or not choose to enact, right? Like, and you know as you're doing it, the price you will pay within the system that is the society that you are in. Like, your communication, basically. And that can range from clothes and things like that all the way down to the type of eye contact you make with people.
Really?
Yes.
What? You okay, there's something I'm not... What do you mean? How do you...
See that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't get it. Like, what does a woman use less eye contact, more eye contact?
What you don't get when a woman does, you know...
The hair.
You don't?
The eyes.
Well,
He's so uncomfortable now. You don't know what's happening.
Well, both of you could demonstrate that on me, and I could see if I could figure it out. No, I'm just kidding. I keep this all professional. No, okay, all right. I can see that. I can see that. Okay, so I'm still. This is a lot for me to take in. I'm still processing. All right, so let's go back to the neutral line. Reducing women to their primary sexual characteristics is sexist. Move. Strongly disagree, slightly disagree. Oh, and disagree. Interesting. Interesting. All right, we're going to do something else. Don't, you're looking at me nervous. Nobody has to be nervous. I call heads or tails.
Heads.
I think that's a tail. Tail. So you get to decide. You can move to strongly agree and argue the position, or you can force her to go over to the strongly agree and argue the position. Your choice.
You go there.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Strongly agree.
All right. So just to be clear, you do not believe this, and this is not the line you are on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So reducing women to their primary sex characteristics is sexist. You're on strongly disagree. Tell her why.
Because, like the question before, this is something I've had thrown at me for a long time. Because I'm saying that women are adult human females, and then beyond that goes everything else. So reducing them to me is just, in all the muddle that we find ourselves in nowadays, a really clear definition of what we're talking about when we talk about a woman. And then from there, you can be whatever else you want to be. I don't think reducing means that that's all you are. You are not capable of being anything beyond that. That is what you are. That is the only thing you got in common with other women. And beyond that, the world is your oyster.
Okay, got it. Now, if someone believed that and they were standing there, your goal is to construct, what would they say?
I mean, okay, so sexism is it's a term to mean judging someone based on their sex, right? Judgment being a process by which you reduce people to things. So judging them in any way, to do that, you are de facto being sexist because you have to judge them into components and into measurements, right? And if I was standing here and I believed this, I would say that any judgment actually involves a scale. And a scale involves lesser and more, which means that the distinction between being able to say that this woman has small breasts and this woman has large breasts, for example, in this context, is it's not possible to make that statement without having a judgment in there, a value judgment in there, and therefore it becomes sexist immediately.
Interesting. Okay, let's go back to the neutral line. I would rather have been born in a male body. Move.
Fine, for fun, I'll take this one.
No, but what do you believe? What do you believe?
I'm here.
Okay, you're a disagree?
I disagree too.
Oh, you're in disagree, and you're both on disagree. You'd rather have been born a female.
Yeah.
Why?
That's all I know what it's like to be, and I quite enjoy being a female. And
What do you enjoy about it?
what do I enjoy about it?
Yeah.
Oh, there's lots of things I enjoy about
Well,
it.
give me three.
I get to cry with the movies. That's a total piss take. That is not one.
Okay.
No, that's the stereotype Güneş was talking about earlier.
Okay.
No, what do I enjoy about being a female? I enjoy the female bond that women have that I can see with lots of my male friends that it's not quite the same. There are men that are good with bromances, but that isn't the norm. It feels there are stronger, maybe older female friendships out of my experience, where we share everything from, like I've got this weird bodily function, and I can see with my husband that's not something they talk about with their mates. I can call my best friends with anything, my female friends. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so that's okay. What do you like about being a woman?
Oh, the question was about female bodies.
Oh, you're born in a female body.
Female body, not about being a woman.
Okay,
Not to be a pedant here, but we are talking about
That's okay. No. I need a little pedantry.
Okay. So what do I like about existing in a female body?
Yes.
I really enjoy the multifaceted, micro-seasonal nature of it. I sort of alluded to that before. I enjoy the fact that there is a huge amount of variety in any given day, given moment, given hour.
Huh. You're nodding. Okay.
There's it's just a thing. Like the female body is extremely changeable, left to its own devices when we don't tamper with it too much.
Interesting. Well, this has been a lesson for me. Okay, let's go back to the neutral line. We should accept people's beliefs that they are the opposite sex when they say they are. Move. You're thinking about it. One on strongly disagree.
Actually, for the fun of it, why don't we...
Well, what do you actually believe first? Then we can kick you to another line.
Well, no, I mean, I think it depends, right?
Okay.
So the premise is that we should accept... Well, is the premise that we should accept that they are the sex that they say they are? Or is the premise actually that I should accept that they believe that they are? And the reality is, if someone came up to me and said, if you turned to me now, Peter, and you said, actually, I'm a female, right? My training would indicate that I would be extremely skeptical of that. But actually, realistically, I would think to myself, well, the actual parameters that I would start by measuring by, like if I had my little checkbox of things I'd be looking for, I have no way of assessing that right now because I'm not going to confirm what kind of gametes you have or make or the status of your genitals. Sorry to be personal.
No. Normally I'd say thank you, but
okay.
Normally.
But so in this context, I would have to find myself thinking, I highly doubt that, but I can't disprove that. So perhaps I would have to just say, okay.
So, all right, pause. I'm coming back to you. We should accept people's beliefs that they're the opposite sex when they say they are. You're on strongly disagree.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think we should accept anything anybody says about themselves. That's their belief about themselves. They're free to believe that about themselves, but I don't have to accept that. Like, I don't have to go along with that. You know, you can believe that you are, I don't know.
A goat.
Yeah. And you can believe that, and I can think that's completely nuts. And I probably tell you because I'm German, but yeah, I don't think we should have to accept that, like someone's belief about themselves.
Okay, so actually go back, reset to the neutral real quick. I'm fairly confident when I'm walking around the streets of London that I can differentiate a male from a female. Move. I can differentiate a male from a female when I'm walking around the streets of London. All right, you're both on agree. Okay.
I mean, we've all been there, right? We've all had that experience of like, am I sure? I mean, generally, the percentage is high, right? I think if I had to estimate, I'd say 99% of people, I think I place appropriately. I would be extremely surprised if then a medical doctor popped up with their files and said, we've checked, they're definitely the opposite to what you said, right? I think 99% of the time I'm probably bang on the money. There's about 1% of people, I'd say, roughly, that I think, ooh, can I tell, really?
And the final arbiter of that, not socially but scientifically, the final adjudicator would be what?
Okay, so that's a really technical thing to do. Okay. So actually we said about gametes before, so that's like eggs and sperm, but actually that's a really ridiculous assessor if you think about it. That's one parameter. And if you think about it, right, like let's just think about sperm for a second now. What if your sperm don't work? Does that mean you're not a male? Like, you know? So you can't have a definition that basically involves exactly one thing only going right and going well, because then you actually get dropout. So when you measure maleness or femaleness, there are actually a lot of things that you measure. So ultimately it's about making a functional gamete, But in making that functional gamete, you have to have the gonads, you have to have the secondary reproductive system that's there, that's appropriate, the external genitalia. We also know that realistically, when you look at someone with your eyes, as I said before, right, when I make the assessment on the street, is this a male or a female? I'm not looking at their genitals, right? None of that, all of that is shrouded away. I'm actually making a measurement based on facial characteristics and dimensions and like, you know, muscle dimensions and things like that, which are even further removed from the actual bottom line. And so actually there are many parameters, right? So when a doctor comes and measures, say in the context of sport, they measure hormone content, they measure things like bone density, muscle, blah, blah, various parameters like that. But the hormone content is one of the big things, which none of us are measuring, obviously.
Okay, go back to the neutral, please. If I saw somebody who I swore was a woman, but the parameters you just described indicated that they were a man, I would view them as a woman. Move. Okay, why you disagree?
Because, as we earlier said, that's not my definition of woman.
Okay.
I understand that there, especially in face-to-face human interactions, you might do that out of courtesy. But if I know that that's not a woman, I'm not the sort of person that's going to go pretend that it is a woman if I don't, that's not my definition of woman. That is somebody who cosplays woman very well, potentially.
Okay, and you had, that question gave you pause.
Yeah, it did. It did, and I think the reason why I'm here is because I separate female from woman by definition. I maybe arguably have to because of my profession. And so I think I probably would attribute to them a certain amount of womanliness, because if you look that much like a female, there will be some aspects that you have access to. You will have a closer alignment to my experience of the world, I would assume.
As a female?
Yeah, because as I said, experience and the way you move through the world is determined by how people see you and view you. And so if we have similar characteristics, you are more likely to be treated in a similar way to me, and therefore, you know.
All right, go back to neutral. I want to kind of flesh this out. I would prefer to have a strong friendship with a woman rather than a man. Move. One strongly disagree, one slightly agree. Okay, go back to neutral again. I treat my friends differently depending on whether they're a man or a woman. Move. Wow, really? What? Wow, I'm fascinated. Why you want to agree? What would you say to how do you treat them differently?
Well, I think it just happens. Like, your friends are, like, obviously they're all just people, right? They're all different, but your friends are some sort of probably something that resonates with your character too. So you've got an even keel where you click, but you do interact differently with your female friends than your male friends.
Like what do you mean?
Saying earlier, well, I wouldn't call my male friends and go on, do you know what just happened? I had my period, and the thing that came out there, you have no idea. Like, you wouldn't.
But you would say that to your female friends?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, you would too?
Yeah. Yeah, there are things that, so the obvious thing is obviously exactly as Jess said, right? So like, intellectually, your friends are your friends. There's like personality things, you click with them. But then there will always be, we all know this, your experience of life is massively colored by the body you are in. Perhaps maybe women know this more than men because we have these very changeable bodies and things happen and then you feel compelled to talk about it or you note it. Your experience of the world is on one hand intellectual, but on another hand it's physical. Imagine waking up and then just being like, ow, this bit of my body aches and I feel weird and I don't know what's going on. And actually, I can't stop eating. My God, I'd give my left arm to eat this, that, or the other. I know this sounds like I'm talking stereotype, but it legitimately happens, right? Bizarre things happen, compulsion.
Without cause, you're saying?
You have no idea why this is happening to you, but all you know is you are feeling these things. And then eventually, sometimes it's because it's psychological and whatever's going on, but sometimes it's because you're physiologically being compelled into it. You are in a different state to what you were yesterday. Like, men have no idea what ovulation feels like to a woman, right? Like,
True.
That is a very unique experience. So thinking about your experience of friendship with men, like, for example, you wouldn't share that with them because you wouldn't be able to, right? In the same way that, like, a rich person, if they came to talk to a really poor person who was their friend, say, I mean, for a start, that's a very bizarre pairing, right? But imagine being like, God, do you know how hard it was to have the waiters ask me for this, that, and the other in the Ritz? Like, you're not going to ring someone who you know isn't going to the Ritz and have that complaint in the same way you wouldn't ring a friend and do that. But actually, something else I think that's important to acknowledge here is it depends on your sexuality.
Next claim, we're going to talk about feminism. How do you define a feminist?
Oh, God. For me, it's it would be a woman. Yeah. It would be a woman who helps to advance female liberation, I suppose, would be yeah.
So men cannot be feminists?
No, because I think I used to think that, and then I guess the sort of fourth wave feminists came in, who were lots of guys wearing shirts with "this is what a feminist looked like," telling me that if I don't accept men into the folds of womanhood, then I'm not a feminist. And ever since I've decided men cannot be feminists. They haven't got a clue what they're talking about. It almost feels like a lot of men have sort of completely perverted the actual cause of feminism. There's a lot of subjects that are so female specific in terms of childcare, work, bodily autonomy and such things that I think men as a generalization don't really know that much about.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. You want to add to that? You want to?
I went through a little journey there, Jess. I really enjoyed it.
Wow.
I was like, wow, that's surprising. And then I thought, yeah, I mean, it kind of does depend on who's doing it. And then I found myself thinking by the end, maybe it's a bit like, family business stays in the family sometimes.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it needs to be just sort of dealt with internally before it's dealt with externally. I still feel like, I hate the word feminism, by the way. It just as a separate aside. But
What would you prefer instead?
I like egalitarianism.
Okay.
That's my term of choice. Because I think that there are also male things that affect males that only affect males that are bad. So I'm more concerned about equality and balance than I am about rectifying my personal agenda, or even taking. It's very important, obviously, that people do that, and I obviously live the life that I live right now thanks to the efforts of people who do fulfill the term feminist.
Okay.
However, for me, as a perfectionist, I think that progress should not be biased in any direction. It should be an even, balanced thing.
Okay.
And so prefer
Okay,
that.
so we're going to do a rapid round here.
Okay.
Everyone should be egalitarian. Move. Strongly agree, Ganesh. And Jess is slightly agree. Okay, next one. Males cannot be feminists. Move. Strongly agree. Jess, she persuaded you.
She persuaded me.
What did she say that persuaded you?
I mean, she's right about those fourth wave feminists. I mean, let's be honest. I'm not going to, you have no idea what you're talking about, son, is what I think most of the time when I see this stuff.
Interesting. Where would you have been before you heard Jess's argument?
I would never have even thought of defining feminist as being a term that could only apply to one sex. I literally had never thought of that before. So I would have probably been at neutral.
Wow, okay. Well, that's good. Okay. So all women in the West should be feminists.
It's
This is a tricky one.
a very tricky one.
And what was tricky about it for you?
It's because the whole meaning of feminism has been so perverted that I can't say that as a blank statement anymore. If it is what I think feminists should advocate for, I am for egalitarianism in the sense that I think feminism would be no longer needed if we were anywhere near the possibility of that. But what and who claims to be feminists nowadays is not something I align with at all. In fact, most people that try and make my life a misery call themselves a feminist. So what I understand to be a feminist, I would be strongly agree, but we no longer agree within. I guess throughout times there was always disagreement of what exactly it means to be a feminist, but it used to be more coherent, say 20 years ago.
Okay. Everyone should fight for female liberation. Move. And everyone includes men and women, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just don't call yourself a feminist.
Okay. So, okay, well, one more thing. So I'm kind of having a little trouble with male and men and female and women. So can you give me like something I can keep in my head?
Okay, so when you talk about female and male, you are explicitly defining a body, the biological parameters of that,
Okay.
right? When you talk about woman and man, you're talking about the whole package. That includes the behaviors and the codified,
Performance.
exactly, the social stuff as well. So, yeah, just be very precise in what you're trying to define.
Okay.
So if you're going to ask me something about a physical experience in the world, you can ask about female or male, right? Would you rather go to the Outer Hebrides as a female or a male? That tells me you want to know about how I would physically feel in that space. Ask me about how I would feel going on an expedition as a woman or a man. You're asking me something a little bit broader. Does that make sense?
Yes.
One is stringent, one is not.
Okay, I'm not sure this is a good question, but I'm going to ask anyway. We can...
All questions are good questions.
Oh, I don't know. There are no stupid questions, only stupid people.
I'm getting that on a bumper sticker.
Okay. All laws should treat men and women equally.
All laws.
Laws. That's from my Boston accent. Laws should treat men and women equally. Disagree, Ganesh, and slightly disagree. Can you think of something codified in law in which a woman would be treated differently than a man?
I mean, I can think of Germany, for example, where men have to go to army service and women not, for example. And I think it's good that women are allowed to do it nowadays, but men are compelled by law to participate and women are not. And I think there are reasons why that is good.
Let's go back to the neutral real quick. Females are oppressed in the West. Move. Both on slightly agree. I'm curious, what do you think if, obviously we don't have men here playing the game, but what do you think the common male attitude would be? Do you think that, you think that they would be?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much talk about it at the moment. There's so much positive, what's it called? Just action, I don't know. What's the nice way of, I don't know, they're trying to be supportive and get more women.
Ally. Allyship?
Yeah, that thing that employers do when they get women into positions for the sake of having a woman there.
Diversity hire, affirmative action?
Affirmative action, that's the one.
I disagree with that, though.
Okay, go
But
ahead.
my point is, I'm not saying that it should be done. What I'm saying is there's so much talk about affirmative action.
No, I know
and
what
all
you're
that
saying,
stuff
but that's only for the females who toe the party line.
Yeah, true.
Because
of course.
Yeah, so it's not just because you're female you're being supported. If you have the wrong opinions, you're out.
Of course. But the question is, if I was a man in this society, what would I think? And I guess what I'm trying to say is the the milieu that we're surrounded by sounds like everyone is very pro-female.
Sounds like, but
Okay, I have another claim. When I go out on a date with a male, I want the male to be chivalrous. Move.
Oh my God. Sorry to whoever watches this.
Why are you sorry to whoever watches it?
Just laying out my demands now.
No, that's good. That's good.
You better open the door.
That's very good. Travis opens the door for everybody. So what are your thoughts on that?
So generally speaking, yeah, I like the holding door open, stuff like that as well. But then being married to a man and having pretty equal parts, and when we do dates, I still like when he gets me flowers and stuff.
You do like that?
I do like that, but I also do like that from my female friends. I just like flowers, I guess. But there's something a little, there's a, little making someone else feel special, and that is traditionally chivalrous. And yeah.
Okay. Women can be chivalrous on a date with men. Move.
Can be. I mean, would they see it as chivalry? I'm not sure they'd interpret it as chivalrous.
What are you thinking?
So if we're talking about the traditional sense, you can be when it comes to like opening the door and stuff, but I think it definitely depends on the man. No, I think there's women who do that actually. But I think it depends on the man whether that would make him feel emasculated.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I get what you're saying.
I don't know if it would be the useful word to use. Yeah.
Right. My question is, I'm not even sure that.
It's possible.
I don't know that they would feel the sensation of chivalry, of receiving chivalry.
Oh,
I think they might be like, that's cute or nice, but I can't imagine a guy being like, that was chivalrous of her.
Yeah, probably.
Like they won't feel like I have chivalroled them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not gonna be like, oh, my knight in white shining armor has just arrived. They'll just be like, oh.
Is that a social phenomenon or a biological phenomenon? Or is chivalry a manifestation of a social manifestation of a biological phenomenon?
Okay, that's a question you need to ask a social scientist.
Okay.
My impulse is to say it's a social thing.
I wonder how you'd test that.
Yeah, it'd be impossible.
So I think it's probably a combination, because if I look at things like in nature, and you've got the bowerbird and building his thing, and the peacock doing the whole sing and dance. I think it's like a sexual behavior type thing to impress the opposite sex. Like if you boil it down.
You think? I mean, that's a really compelling argument actually, because I mean, I was thinking, how do you define chivalry, right? Like, does the female?
But I guess that's what I think where might come from.
Right, maybe
like, to impress, with good manners, or and the good manners, I guess, are decided socially.
No, I don't think. I try not to put my own opinion in there, but I will this time. I don't think that's chivalry.
No?
No, I think it's born out of a genuine caring for someone, and I think it's born out of just showing them a kind of fundamental decency.
I feel like there's a certain element of protectiveness in it, though.
There is certainly.
Right?
That's certainly the case.
So it's not just, I don't know, I guess it's not just, when I think of those shows in nature, I think of them as just being like a performance of virility, basically. Which chivalry is not about. It sort of is. It's saying.
But isn't it when you have things like, I'll pay for it, darling. It's fine. Like I provide.
Well, I'm trying to put on myself. I'm trying to think. Like, let's say that I went out with like the world champion female MMA fighter.
Right.
And she was like, wanting to pay for everything, opening doors, pulling out my chair. That would make me feel weird.
Well,
I wouldn't like that.
That's what I'm saying. It depends on the guy,
I wouldn't
though.
like that.
There's some guys who maybe have grown up to go, I'll take advantage of this. Let her pay the bill. It's fine. I think it just depends. There's some men for whom it is incredibly important to take over all those roles. And
I bet you those guys say sorry a lot. No, I'm serious. I bet you that's how they manifest in the world.
Again, I think that might be cultural. Like, people in the UK say sorry a lot. Not so much in Germany.
Okay, all right, let's go back to the neutral. We're going to do a semi-lightning round. Okay, ready? Yeah. There is no biological phenomenon that can be put into a solid box. If it's a bad question, you can just say so.
As in, I mean, surely.
As in, there is my opinion then.
Like
right?
true.
Biological phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave birth to a child. That's pretty biological
That's
phenomenon.
undeniable.
That's pretty undeniable. Like you to put in a box there,
Yeah.
I would say.
True.
Is it true enough for you to move to strongly agree?
I'm
strongly
getting
disagree?
I'm getting stuck on the semantics here.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
technically, nothing is ever proven to be true. It's just not been disproven, right? So, so on account of that, I'm
From
gonna,
all I know.
yeah. Well, in that,
So far.
no, for that example, completely true. But like technically, when talking, the question was about biological facts, right? So technically, anything that we would consider to be a biological fact is much evidence in support of it and has thus far not been disproved technically, right? That's.
Okay, I could quibble with that, but I'll give it to you. Okay, let's go back to the neutral. Biological sex is a spectrum. Move. Biological sex is a spectrum. Move. Oh my goodness! Well, okay. Grab the marker and the board and the eraser, and grab the marker and the board and the eraser. Okay, so write your best reason for standing on the line, on the mat. What is her best reason for believing that?
That there are differences in sex development, like that there are variations of sexual, like bits and bobs.
Don't tell her what your answer is, but is that correct?
Are there differences? Yes, there are.
But is that what you wrote down?
Basically.
Oh,
I mean,
she got it.
She got it, yeah.
Okay, well then show her what you got. Show her what you
Right.
guessed.
So, biological sex. I mean, it's a bit. I was trying to capture something a little bit broader, but
Okay.
you said, is biological sex a spectrum?
Yes.
I would say yes, because there are multiple parameters that we look at when we define sex. And we know that there is variation within them. Even within our categories, we see variation.
Okay.
And then there are people who fall in the in-between zone. And so what we actually have is a spectrum. I mean, this gap is way too big in my little schematic representation
Okay.
right now, but like...
What does that say on the board?
It says, biological sex has multiple parameters, therefore the spectrum looks like this.
Okay, and explain that.
So I'm trying to say,
diagram.
basically, within the category that we recognize as female, there is variety, right? There's tall females, short females, of the parameters that we think of when we define our sex, right? Waist to hip ratio, or like for males, broad shoulders, tallness, all these kinds of things that we start at. There is a range. We all know men that look like Chris Hemsworth and those that don't, right? They're still men, but there is a range there. There is a spectrum.
Okay.
So there's that, and then there's all the way down to the differences in sex development, which is to do with like literal people who have literal differences in the genes that they carry and therefore the organs that they make. So we have a huge range. A small proportion of people fall into that gap, a very small. But nevertheless, I think it is fair to say that it is a spectrum.
Okay, not do you agree with anything she said, but do you understand why she's on the line? Do you understand the argument she made?
Oh yeah, she's a biologist.
Yeah. Was anything she said persuasive enough for you to move one mat to the disagree?
No.
Okay. What do you think her best reason for standing on the strongly disagree is?
99.99% of people fall into two categories that are definably male and female.
That sounds like your reason.
I mean, it's similar, but there is actually a, yeah.
Okay, so then it would be, okay. Is she correct? Yes or no?
Well, yeah, with what she said, she's correct, yeah.
No, but is she correct with what's on the board? Don't show her,
no.
don't show her. Okay, guess again.
Guess again.
What is her best reason for standing on the strongly disagree?
And our premise was biological sex is a spectrum.
Correct.
So you don't think it's a spectrum? I got nothing. If it's not that it's a binary,
I don't know is a perfectly fine answer.
I don't know.
Okay, can you share your answer with her, please, or with me too?
So
Show her. What does it say?
procreation requires two sexes, and intersex is not another sex. So yes, there is a tiny percentage of people who fall between the spectrum, but there's still only male and female. There's not. What is the other? What is there gamete, is it spurg? You know, like there's only male and female, and along that, yes, there's a gazillion variations, but the most effeminate male is still a super effeminate male, and the most butch female is still a female. And like Güneş said, there's obviously intersex that falls in between where things mix up. But that doesn't make it a spectrum. That makes it,
Okay.
So what's really cool about that is it's to do with our definition of what we were thinking biological sex means. So to me, biological sex refers to the physical body of a human, right? It's just to do with the body. I actually clearly don't use the functionality of it as part of my definer, because as a definition, I don't go around being like, that guy's sperm looks like it works, right? Like that's not how I experience the.
It's probably a good thing.
Thanks. It would explain a few things, but that's actually a perfectly valid way of defining it. If you do, I just literally didn't even think about the procreation thing, because of course Jess is right. Procreation, that is how reproduction works. There are only two things that can work. It needs to be an egg, it needs to be a sperm.
So was the reason that she gave, what she had written on the board, is that sufficient for you to move to the agree, or is it you just talk, or even more, or is it that you're just talking about two different things?
For me, it's two different things. For me, the ability to procreate and one's biological sex are separate things, because if you conflate the two of them, it means that you therefore have to hold it to be true that if you're infertile or can't procreate, then you do not have a biological sex. And I think most people actually don't know their reproductive capacity.
Isn't that objection obviated if you put in the need potential?
But then it's kind of useless to have that there, right? Like having sperm that could potentially, either you're talking about procreation or you're not talking about procreation. If you're talking about procreation, there's only one definable, useful, that it's a line. You either push a baby out or you don't. Right? Actually, I say that, and there are actually situations where you could not, but it's a bit of an absolute term, really.
Okay. I'll grab that for me. Is there anything that she said there that would persuade you to move to disagree, or is it you're just talking about two different things?
I think for me, the main thing is that like I said before, I had to distill my arguments down so much for people to, because otherwise it just goes into the weeds. Again, I don't disagree that there is a variation of how males and females express themselves. I think for me, it's about the potentiality. It's like, whether you are the sex that could do this or could do that doesn't mean that you're not. It's like when a man chops off his penis, it's still a man with a chopped off penis. That's why I'm boiling it down.
But actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is like a semantic point now, but actually, if that penis is gone, the potential to have a child, to have a baby goes with it, right? Without additional human intervention. Yes. So, okay, it doesn't then immediately mean you have the potential to have a pregnancy in the other direction.
Yeah.
But you do change your potential, right? So, and the question was about spectrum. So actually, no potential is an option in that, right? To be father, to be mother, be technically. This is now semantics, I realize, but.
Well, it's linguistic precision, and you're not a pedant if you're precise. No, go ahead.
No, it's just that to me, it is a spectrum that still talks about male and female, though. It's not. We're not talking about a third something. It's a variation, even with differences in sexual development. Okay. There's certain intersex conditions only women can have, and vice versa.
Okay, do me a favor. Reset to the neutral, if you don't mind. Males who have had their genitals removed, and we had a person here who removed his this. I'm trying to think of linguistics. We had an individual who removed that individual's he calls himself a gay man. Okay. Males who have had their genitals removed become less male. Become less male. Males who have had their genitals removed become less male. Just, well, we've got the definition of male. While you're both on, you can move. There's a free island. It's a free island. Anybody's.
Less male.
Yeah. So.
Just in terms of testosterone, they have no longer testosterone, so I guess they're less. Well, yeah, masculine. No, so I should be over there.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Okay. What
They're still a man.
What caused you to move? What caused you to move?
Internal dialogue of.
Okay, run me through it. Run me through the thoughts.
Literally, I was the same problem that you had earlier about male or men, and yes, so I would think that someone who has no longer testosterone running through their veins acts differently, not in a stereotypical way in any way, but it doesn't make them any less male. So actually,
Please.
Did this person have their testes removed as well?
Yes, the whole thing chopped, gone, bye-bye.
So they're castrated as well.
Correct.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It is certainly interesting. Oh my God! Now you moved. Why did you move again?
I know because that is the, as I was saying before. To me it's man or woman, and whether you chop something off to me doesn't change that. So if he chopped it off, then he's still a man, right?
Are we talking about chromosomes now? I feel like I need to. I feel like I now need to do the
Go ahead. You do you.
chromosome thing.
Yeah. Talk to me.
So
Okay.
biological sex. This is how I literally explain it in lectures and everything.
Okay.
From the point at which an egg and a sperm meet, and like all of us started life as a single-celled embryo, right? We have a bunch of DNA. They come in these little chapters that we call chromosomes, like little definable packets. We have sex chromosomes. So from the moment you are a single cell, you have a type of biological sex because you have your sex chromosomes. Okay? They're there. You are one cell big. You have an XX or an XY or an XO or an XXY or whatever, but they are discrete units. There are units of sex chromosomes, okay? That exists. Then that cell develops and it becomes an embryo. It's developing, it's growing structures, things are appearing that we would start to definably call that, oh, it's got a head, it's got arms.
Right.
It then starts to build gonads. And when that process starts, that's the first time those bits of DNA are consulted, and that information is translated into different behaviors of those cells. So they now go, okay, what sex chromosomes do I have? What kind of gonad am I building, right?
Okay.
So, for example, we know that males are XY because they take the information from the Y chromosome and use it to instruct their cells to build testes.
Okay.
And then in building the testes, you then start building the rest of the reproductive system that needs to go along with those testes, right? So the scrotum and all the rest of that stuff, that all happens, all the piping, all the internal stuff, so that you have a reproductive system that works. So that by birth, you have something that you can give and attribute some kind of biological sex to. Keeping in mind that we do this normally by virtue of literally looking at genitals, which is not a reflection of what's inside the gonads, nor how functional they are, nor of the sex chromosomes.
Okay.
Right, but that's what we do. And then we know for a fact that when we actually in life, in our user experience of the universe, when we assess someone's biological sex, typically what we're actually looking at is their secondary structures, all of the rest of their body, and their hormonal manifestation, right? Which again, their ability to produce those hormones and their ability to respond to the hormones that they produce is genetically encoded. Those are the various parameters of biological sex. So
males who had their genitals removed
still have the same DNA that they had before. But it comes down to your definition, literally, of what is a male. Is a male someone who has testes, in which case they no longer fulfill that? Is it someone who has XY chromosomes? Well, then they do fulfill that.
Okay, so from everything you said, it seems that the mat you're on is not correctly calibrated and that you should be there. Or am I not understanding?
Maybe. I mean, has become less male. No, but they do become less male. They don't cease to be male.
You slightly agree with that, but you don't fully agree because they still have some of those the encoding characteristics?
There are many other parameters. So when I think about biological sex, I have such a milieu of, like, a huge stack of things that I'd be thinking about that, like, okay, at some point you chopped your nuts off and fine, okay, it's not quite the same as it was before, but there has been time, there has been consequence and effect of those things, and you don't change everything. So yeah, you become slightly less male. But
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. I'm just real curious. How come you don't strongly agree? For the same reason?
For the same argument, I think for the same reason. There's just so many things that, like, because to me it's to do with what your DNA tells your body to make. And your DNA told your body what to make already.
Okay.
You can change that all you like.
Post factum, like you just, okay, got it. All right. So go back to the neutral, or, yeah, just go back. So we're wrapping it up here. Did you have fun today?
Yes.
Did you have fun?
Sure.
Did you think or reflect on anything today that, or more deeply, or that you hadn't reflected on, or did you learn something about another position, or anything pop to mind of note?
Yeah, your point about feminists really, like, got me thinking.
About men not being able to be feminists.
Yeah, that really, I've genuinely never thought that before. I really enjoyed seeing that perspective. Like, it got me thinking.
Huh, interesting. You don't have to give any reciprocity.
You don't
That's
have
fine.
to.
No, it's fine.
No, I guess because I've had to have so many arguments about it, I've read a lot of the things that Güneş was talking about. So I'm very familiar with her arguments, which is, why I could somewhat guess what she was going to say, because I've been put in that position many times where I had to argue for the opposite position. So
Well, cool. Thank you for playing. Appreciate it. All right, it's a wrap.